I rested my hand on the polished mahogany table, feeling the cool, smooth grain under my fingertips. The crystal glass in front of me caught the warm glow of the chandelier, scattering gold across the pristine white tablecloth. From my private corner in Montclair's, the most exclusive restaurant in the city, I had the perfect view of the entrance. My staff moved with quiet precision, the maitre d' in his tailored suit, the waiters gliding between tables like a well-rehearsed ballet. I'd worn my favorite silk blouse tonight, deep emerald, the kind that makes my skin look warmer, my hair glossier. It was a quiet kind of power dressing, not the flashy look-at-me kind. I didn't need that anymore. Then my phone buzzed, screen lighting up with a new reservation request. I glanced down and froze. The names on the list were ones I hadn't seen in years. Hannah Cooper, Bradley James, Melissa Tran. For a moment, it felt like the air thickened around me. My mind flashed back to the night they told me I couldn't afford dinner here. The smirk on Brad's face, Hannah's mocking laugh. The way I'd felt small. I took a slow sip of my Cabernet, letting the velvety warmth roll across my tongue. I'd built an entire life in the shadows since that night, and they had no idea. A smile tugged at the corner of my mouth. Oh, this was going to be interesting. It was 4 years ago, but I remember every detail like it was yesterday. I'd just landed my first marketing internship in New York, unpaid, of course, and my savings were barely enough to cover my rent in a shoebox apartment and instant ramen dinners. But when Hannah texted that the old college group was meeting up, I didn't want to say no. I missed feeling like I belonged somewhere. They picked Montclair's. I knew it was out of my league, but I told myself I could order something small and nurse one drink. I wore my best thrift store dress, a soft navy wrap that I hoped looked more expensive than it was. At first, it was fine laughter, stories, that easy rhythm of old friends. But when the bill came, Bradley looked right at me and smirked. "You're good for this, right?" he said, sliding the leather folder toward me. My heart sank. "Actually, I thought we were splitting." "Oh, come on," Hannah cut in. "We all know you're still figuring things out. Don't worry, it's on us. You can get the next one if you can afford it." Melissa laughed. Not a full laugh, just that sharp exhale people do when they're pretending not to find something hilarious. Heat crept up my neck. I smiled like it didn't hurt, but my hands were trembling under the table. I left early, walking out into the cold, the city lights blurring through my tears. When I got home, I found a small package in my mailbox. My grandmother had sent it, a silver locket she'd worn for decades, with a note inside. "Never let them be right about you. Love, Nana." I sat on my bed, holding that locket so tight it left little crescent marks in my palm. Something shifted in me that night, a hard, quiet decision. I wasn't going to beg for a seat at someone else's table anymore. One day, I'd own the whole damn table. The morning after that night, I stood in front of my bathroom mirror, the silver locket resting against my collarbone. My eyes were still puffy from crying, but there was something new in them, a kind of steel I'd never seen before. I grabbed my old laptop, opened a blank spreadsheet, and started planning. I had no real business idea yet, just a deep, stubborn refusal to stay where I was. I picked up a second job as a barista at a small coffee shop in Brooklyn. My boss, Margaret Hayes, was in her 50s, a former corporate executive who'd traded her corner office for the smell of espresso and fresh croissants. She noticed how quickly I learned, how I remembered every regular's order, how I reorganized the storage room, so we stopped losing inventory. One night after closing, she handed me a cappuccino and said, "You've got business instincts, kid. Don't waste them." Those words stuck. I started taking online business classes at night, learning marketing strategies, bookkeeping, and even hospitality management. My days blurred together. Up at 5 a.m. for the coffee shop, afternoons interning at a tiny marketing firm, nights studying until my eyes burned. I lived on black coffee and ambition. The first real break came when a catering company owner, Luis Romero, came in for his usual Americano. He'd overheard me explaining a promotional idea to Margaret and asked if I could help with his business's social media. It wasn't much, $200 for a month's work, but it was the first time I'd been paid for my brain, not just my hands. That $200 went straight into savings. Then $300 from a second client. Then $500. I kept my expenses lean, no shopping sprees, no takeout unless it was a business meeting. Every cent I could spare went into a little freedom fund I kept in a separate account. Over 2 years, I built a quiet roster of clients, mostly small cafes, boutique hotels, and family-owned restaurants. I specialized in making places feel like destinations online, turning Instagram scrollers into loyal customers. When Margaret decided to sell her coffee shop, she offered it to me first. I almost laughed. I didn't think I could ever afford it. But between my savings, a small business loan, and Margaret's willingness to finance part of it herself, I signed the papers. At 27, I was officially a business owner. I never told Hannah, Bradley, or Melissa. On social media, I posted the occasional latte art picture, maybe a shot of me behind the counter. They probably thought I was still hustling for tips. Meanwhile, my cafe doubled in revenue in the first year. By year 3, I'd opened a second location. By year 5, I had enough capital to make a move I'd been dreaming about since the night they humiliated me, buying Montclair's. The same linen-draped tables. The same chandeliers. But now they belonged to me. Friday night. The kind of night when Montclair's felt electric. The clink of wine glasses, the low hum of conversation, the faint scent of truffle butter drifting from the kitchen. I stood near the hostess stand, scanning the reservation list, when I saw it again. Hannah Cooper, Bradley James, Melissa Tran. Right on time. They walked in like they owned the place. Hannah in a designer dress that probably cost more than my first month's rent back in Brooklyn, Bradley with his smug little half-smile, Melissa trailing behind with her phone in hand. The hostess greeted them warmly. "Welcome to Montclair's. Do you have a reservation?" "Yes," Hannah said. "For 3. She glanced around. "We usually sit near the window." I stepped forward, letting the soft click of my heels announce me. "Actually," I said, "your table's in our private section tonight." 3 sets of eyes landed on me. Bradley blinked. "Lena? Wow. I didn't know you worked here." I smiled. "Oh, I don't work here. Follow me." I led them to a candlelit table set for 3, the kind of spot reserved for VIP guests. They sat still a little puzzled. I handed them menus, the same menus I'd personally approved down to the font. As they ordered, I stayed nearby, pretending to check on another table while catching every bit of their conversation. Melissa whispered, "I thought she was still running some coffee shop or something." "Guess she's waitressing now." Bradley chuckled. I let them eat. Let them drink. Let them enjoy every bite of their $120 filet mignons. And when their plates were cleared and the wine glasses half full, I walked back over, locket resting against my silk blouse like a shield. "Everything to your liking?" I asked. "Perfect," Hannah said, still smiling that same patronizing smile she'd given me for years ago. "Good," I said, sliding my hands into my pockets. "Because I wanted tonight to be memorable for you." Melissa tilted her head. "Why's that?" I leaned in slightly, my voice steady. "Because this is my restaurant. I bought it last year. Every person you see working here, from the maitre d' to the head chef, answers to me." Silence. Hannah's smile faltered. Bradley's jaw tightened. Melissa looked down at her plate, like the silverware might explain what she'd just heard. "You're joking," Bradley said finally. I straightened. "No. I own Montclair's. And I remember the last time we were here together. I remember you saying I couldn't afford dinner. So I thought it was poetic that tonight you enjoyed it on my terms." Melissa's cheeks flushed crimson. Hannah cleared her throat, searching for words that didn't come. Bradley leaned back, eyes narrowed, but there was no fight in him now, just discomfort. I let the silence stretch, the chandeliers above catching every flicker of their expressions. "Dessert?" I asked almost sweetly. "It's on the house." Bradley finally broke the silence. "Look, Lena, about that night." I held up a hand. "Don't. I'm not here for an apology you think will make you feel better. I just want clarity. If you ever step into this restaurant again, it will be under a few conditions." Melissa frowned. "Conditions?" "Yes." I leaned forward, resting my forearms lightly on the table. First, respect. For the staff, for the people around you, and for the fact that you're sitting in a space you once told me I didn't deserve to be in. They shifted uncomfortably, glancing at each other. Second, I continued. If you choose to dine here again, 10% of your bill will go to the City Women's Fund, a nonprofit that helps women start businesses when they don't have family money or a safety net. You'll write the check before you take a single bite. Hannah's eyebrows shot up. That's unusual. Not for me, I said calmly. I built my first business penny by penny. I know how much that kind of help can mean. I paused, letting them sit with it. And finally, no more pretending you don't know what people are worth. I don't mean money. I mean their value before the world catches up. If you can't handle that, this place isn't for you. Bradley opened his mouth, then shut it again. Melissa's phone was finally face down on the table. Hannah's gaze was locked on me, her polished confidence dimmed. Why even let us come back? Hannah asked quietly. Because, I said, leaning back, I'm not the girl you tried to make small anymore. And I believe people can change if they're given the choice to. For a moment, none of them spoke. The air between us felt heavy but different now, like a shift had taken place that none of them could undo. I stood, smoothing my blouse. The check's been handled. You're welcome to stay as long as you like. But if you return, you'll remember tonight's terms. As I walked away, I felt my grandmother's locket brush against my skin. It wasn't anger keeping me steady. It was the knowledge that I'd built a life no one could take from me. Behind me, I heard Melissa murmur something under her breath. Then softly, Hannah said, "She's not the same Lena." A month later, a small cream envelope arrived at the restaurant. No return address. Inside was a donation receipt, $5,000 to the City Women's Fund, made in the names of Hannah Cooper, Bradley James, and Melissa Tran. There was no note, just the receipt. But I didn't need one. I saw them again, weeks later. Not together. Melissa came in with her sister and actually thanked the staff by name. Bradley stopped by with a client, no smug smirk this time. He even tipped generously. Hannah booked a private lunch for her company and asked if I'd speak to her employees about starting a business from scratch. They weren't different people overnight, but something had shifted. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was respect. Maybe it didn't matter. One evening after closing, I sat alone in my office, the quiet hum of the wine cooler filling the room. I held my grandmother's silver locket in my palm, tracing the tiny scratches on its surface. Inside, the photo of her was still as bright as the day she gave it to me. "Never let them be right about you," her note had said. Back then, it felt like a challenge. Now, it felt like a truth I had lived into. I thought about that night years ago when I walked home in the cold, cheeks burning, feeling like the city itself was laughing at me. I thought about the girl who didn't think she belonged in a place like Montclair's. And then I thought about the woman I'd become, the one who didn't just belong here, she owned it. I fastened the locket around my neck, turned off the office light, and stepped into the dining room. The chandeliers cast a warm glow over every table, every chair, every detail I had once only dreamed of. They said I couldn't afford dinner. I whispered to myself, smiling. Now I own the restaurant, and everyone in it works for me.